All right, so today we are going to be starting with the first language, which is going to be HTML. And before we start with the HTML, you need to know how to navigate your way around VS Code because this is where you'll be spending 90% of your time because this is where you're going to be typing everything that you want to show on the browser there. And when you're using VS Code, yesterday I talked about project folder, which means you need to open a specific folder where you are going to have all the necessary file for the site or the application that you want to work with. And as you can see here, already opened this folder known as this class underscore 6 because I mentioned in the yesterday too that anywhere you need to add space, you bridge it with underscore or hyphen because of deployment later on, which is a process of you making sure that your site is available online for everybody. So anybody that have a browser that can load a site can just type the URL and they will get the page or the site that you are working on there. And in order for us to be able to manage all the file easily, we are using the VS Code Explorer, which make it easier for us to manage all the file that we have in our project. So if you don't have any file open, what you are going to see there by default is open a folder. So if you don't have any folder open, as you can see, that's what you are going to see. So it's not left for you to click on it and you go to where you have the folder that you want to open, or if you already opened it before, as you can see, other the recent, you are going to see all the previous one that you've worked with. So I'm going to click on this class 6 here, or you can click on this open folder, go to where you have your folder or the project you want to work with, and once you get there, you click on the folder, then you select folder, and once you select it, VS Code will reload, and as you can see, it will show the name of the folder at the top. So which is whatever you'll be doing with these two icons, it will happen inside this place. You don't need to go to your normal file explorer to create file or to create nested folder under this one. So to create a file, we have this one that you can click on. As you can see, it's bringing out this box for us. And what does this mean? It's asking you for the file that you want to create. And for every file that you're going to be working with, you're always going to have the name of the file there, then followed by the extension of the file. Because every file that we have, there's always an extension attached to them. So for the HTML, the extension is just .html. So for the CSS, the extension is still the same thing as .css, and for the JavaScript, it is a JS. So these are the three major extensions that we're going to be working with, and as you can see from VS Code, it's showing this logo for each one of them. But this is not how your own logo is going to come outside because I've already changed my own. But it will show another icon at your own side there unless you install that same extension that I'm using currently. But if you don't have it by default, it have the way it used to show all the icons for each one of the language. For example, if I put .pdf here, it recognizes the PDF and some other extension that we have there. But the one we're going to be working with is the HTML, the CSS, and the JS. So these are the major file that we're going to be creating directly by ourselves from VS Code. So what do you need? You need the name of the file or the page that you want to work on, and followed by the extension. So this is what we call a web page here. So a web page is a file which ending with this .html extension, and inside it you have all the content that you want to showcase to the user on the screen. For example, now going back into this site, you see that this thing have different pages. One of the page is this sign up page here. You can have the login page, you can have the home page, and so forth like that. So like this remitter that we check out, as you can see, this is their home page. But from this page, I can go to these other pages than they have. So like this login now. So if I click on login, you see that it goes to another place entirely. So this is the login page. Or if I don't want to log in, is sign up. Or if I forget my password, that's another page for forget password. So once you click on it, as you can see, this is another page entirely. So in order for you to create different pages like this, what do? In your project, you create different HTML file. Then you can now connect them later on using link. Because if you look at it, I click on something, here, and after clicking on it, it's taking me to that page. So what you are clicking that is taking from one page to another one is what we call link. But you have different HTML file, and all of them are together, but you can't see them at once. So you have to click, or you have to move from one page into another page. And when you want to create a page, just create your HTML file. And what's the HTML file? It's just any file that ends with .html. The name file here can be anything you want, but the .html have to be there, and it have to be the last on the list there like that. But when you are creating a page, it's always good that you use a descriptive name. Now, if I want to create sign up page now, it's better I use sign up.html rather than just using x.html. When you use x.html, it will work, but it's not making, like, it's not describing what that page is all about. So it's always good that you use a name that is describing the page that you want to work it. If you make mistake, you can right click and rename, or you copy and paste to another folder later on. Or if you don't need it again, you can just delete it, and we don't have any file again inside this folder. But I will not be working like that. I will not just be creating files straightforward like this. So I always love to organize my stuff. So here we can create a nested folder. So when you click on this, it's going to create a folder instead of a file. So this one, I just need to give you the name of the folder. You don't put extension to folder. So yeah, we have the HTML folder, which means when we're dealing with HTML, this is the folder we're going to be using. And later on, when we get to CSS, we're going to create another folder for that one too, which is something I'm going to do here. But VS Code is actually crazy when you are creating folders. So anytime you have a nested item here, you can see there's this line, this like a gray line going around stuff, but at your own side is going to be blue line. That line is telling you which folder you are currently focused at that particular time. And whatever you are doing with these two, it will happen on that folder that you can see the line around it. So if I click on this one, I can see that line is now around that HTML. So which means if I click on any one of these two, it will happen inside HTML. But if I want it to happen inside classes, what I just need to do is to click on any white area. And once you click, you see the line now is around everything. So since it's around everything, it means currently you're on classes, and if you click on any of these two, it will put it inside classes. And that's what I want, because I want to create another folder CSS. But now that line has moved to CSS. If I do anything with these two, it will put it here. But that's not where I want to put it, so I'm clicking outside. Because this thing is very important when you want to be creating folder and file later on. You need to know where that line is for you to know where it's going to put the file. Because it's not like your normal Explorer that you have to double click and open folder before you can see what is inside it. Here is like a tree where you click to drop down, or you click again to collapse the stuff, because you don't need to enter the folder before you can see what is there. So here too, I'm going to have JS, which is something we're going to be using later on again. I will have projects. So when we're done with our normal HTML and CSS, we are going to start working on some basic project like the landing page and so forth like that, to put everything I've learned together there. But now, the next thing I want to create now, I want to put it inside HTML. So I have to click on it first. Now the line is around it. So if I do anything with this now, as you can see, it's putting it under the HTML, not, even though everything is under classes, but now this file that I want to create now will be inside this folder. And everything we are doing here is happening in your Explorer, because this one is just like a copy of what is on your system. It's not that it's doing separate stuff from your system. Whatever you are creating here, you're going to see it in your Explorer there. If you go to so if I click on classes now, you can see all of them are here, and you can even do it from here too. For example, you can just right click, and you see the new, which is the same thing we are doing there. So click on it, you see that it will appear here too, because they are just the same thing. This one is just like a copy of what is going on here. So if you make changes here, you see it there. If you make changes here too, you see it at the side there like that. So that's why you don't need to be coming to this side to do anything. Do it directly from here. You see it in your normal Explorer directly. So this HTML, I'm going to be creating this our first HTML file, which I'm calling this index. And this name is special. That name index is special. So the name index is used by the browser, or we used to use it to talk to the browser that, okay, when a particular user come to our site and they did not really mention any page that they want to visit on that site, this is what you are going to display to them by default. So you can think of this index as the default page that the browser will display anytime you go to a site, or you can think of it as home page. So when you just go to www something and you did not really mention the page that you want to go to, it will display the content that is coming from index automatically for you. But if you create any other one, for example, like this sign up.html like this, you have to talk to the browser that you need the content from this sign up.html before it can show it to you. You have to mention it. So how do you do it? All these things are going to show on the browser. You are going to see it in the URL once we start loading this. As you can see here, this is the address, but if you see /product, then /about. So this is what we'll call the pages where you want to go to, even though this is advanced stuff, but it looks like this, where you are going to have the main site. So if you don't mention anything by default, for example, if I remove product and this, and you just load it, no, we did not specify any page you want to go, it's going to load the index for you automatically there like that. The content inside the index is what is going to load. But if you want to go to a particular page and you know that page, then you have to do / then followed by the page that you want to have access to. But their own now, we can't just type anything anyhow. So we want to do it with our own site that we are just building right now. But again, here too, you don't just create the HTML and you start typing the content like that. There is a structure that your HTML use, or that is going to follow there. You can't just create the HTML file and start putting the content, the heading, and so forth like that. No, that's not how it works. You have to use something known as HTML, or the page structure. So for every site that you're going to see online, there is a basic structure that you always going to see there. Every site that you're going to see these days, there's a basic structure that all of them have. Even though the content might be different, but they have this static structure that everything will always follow. And that structure is something that you have to type a lot of them out. But instead of you doing that, VS Code can help us to generate the structure for us, because it's something you'll be doing every time. For every pages you want to work on, you have to generate the structure there. And to generate the structure from VS Code, you can use this shift 1 to bring out exclamation mark. And as you can see here, it has these two options, but the one we need is the first one. Clicking on it, as you can see here, it will generate, this is what we call the page structure. For every site that you want to work on, you're always going to have this minimal structure. But what is it doing? I'm going to explain them. But you have to have this one before you start putting your content. As you can see, it started from this line 1. So what is this stuff that is going on here? This is how we talk to the browser, the version of HTML we are using. And this is how we talk to the browser that we are using HTML5. So that line 1 is talking to the browser, the version, because we have version 1 to 5. But these days, you don't see anybody using anything less than 5. So all the sites you are going to see online, they have that same stuff at the top. So if I inspect, or if I view the page source of this site, you see that they have the same line at the top. For every site, they always have that structure. As you can see, the first two lines that we have here on this site is the same thing that I have here too, because it's a structure that every site must have. But where do you put your content? This is inside the body here. So inside this body, this is where you put whatever content you want to show to the user. And what is this thing that we just have here? What is this stuff here? What is all this stuff? This is what we call tag. You know, I mentioned it yesterday. That tag is what you use to generate the elements on the page. So this is what we now call tag. So tag, they are always in this less than and greater than symbol, then followed by the name of the tag, which is going to be inside them. But we have 3 types of tags, which is on the page already here. So we have something known as opening tag, So any one of them in this form, they are known as a opening tag. And any one of them in this form, they are known as a closing tag. And how do you recognize closing tag? It always starts with this slash before the name of the tag. And how do you recognize the opening tag? They are always like this. There is no slash at all there. So when you see it in this way, they are known as a opening tag. So the opening tag of body is this, and this is the closing tag of body. So and how does this thing work? Any tag that you're going to be using later on that have open and closing, it means they will only affect what is inside them, not what is outside of the tag. So which means whatever you want to show on the screen have to be in between this opening and the closing of this body tag, not outside of it. You have to put it inside because it will only affect what is inside it, not outside. The same thing too, if you look at it, we have this edge. This is the opening tag of the head, and this is the closing tag of the head. So what does head do? We use this one to supply extra information to the browser, not to the user that want to see your site. Whatever you be putting inside the head is all about what the browser is going to interpret on it, like for the browser alone. But whatever you be putting inside the body is for what the user is going to see. So everything that you are seeing here on this side, they are inside the body. So if you look at this thing somewhere, let me see. As you can see, there is body here. But even though this thing did not have anything there, they are using something known as framework to build the site. But you can still see the body is here. And inside the body is where JavaScript is going to put, as you can see here, there's one element here. And that's where the thing is going to put everything. But once we get to the framework, later on, you know what the site is doing because they are doing advanced stuff. But we were just starting now. So whatever you are seeing here, everything is inside the body. Why the head? That's where you supply something known as title. So as you can see, there is a text at the top here. So that text that the browser is speaking at that top, it's coming from this tag here known as title. So it's part of the head. So this title is what you are going to be seeing on every site that showcase like the title of that particular page you are working on. And this thing will be changing based on the page, depending on what the site is using. So if I go to another about us here, like that, if they are using it, you say that the page is going to update the title at the top if they are doing it. But if they are not doing it, then it's not going to show at all. As you can see, I'm right now about us. But if I go back to this site, as you can see at the top, they say customer area. That thing, the browser pick it up from the title. Whatever you put inside the title, inside the head, that's what the browser will be showing at the top. And going to their main site, go to their main site. Yeah, let me go to their main site. The nurse said it should come here. Let me go to their main site. So look at this now. As you can see, it's just Apex that is showing here. So click on this side. As you can see, it's still Apex that is showing here. About us, like that. This is another page entirely. And you see the Apex that they are showing there. Depending on the site, the title will always change or it will be the same thing. As you can see for this side, the title for this page is login to Nairaland. But once I click on the home page, as you can see, it changed to, so for each page, you're always going to have this structure and you're going to put the title to differentiate each one of them. If you like, you can use the same title or you leave it or you change it to whatever you want. But it's always good that you give a meaningful title to each page because when the user wants to bookmark your page later on, the name you use for the title is what is going to save or is what is going to use to bookmark. If it is bookmark you want to do, like that, as you can see, is the same name. Whatever you use as the title is what the browser will be using as the name of that particular page. When you want to save or when you want to bookmark the stuff like that. So that's how it works. So to generate the page structure, you use Shift and 1 here, which you are going to press enter and it's going to generate the stuff. That's one way of doing it. You can generate it again by using this doc. So once you type doc and you press enter, as you can see, it will generate the same thing. And again, you can even type HTML directly and you pick this HTML5. Don't forget we're dealing with version 5. So you click on it and it's still going to generate the stuff for you. But we have other version of HTML that you can use like that. But we don't want to use all these olden days HTML version. What you need is HTML5. And once you press enter, as you can see, it will generate the stuff for us, but we don't want this thing. We want to generate the page structure. So HTML5, but I don't use all this one because it's like I'm typing a lot of characters. So this one shift one, we bring the exclamation mark, you press enter, and it's going to generate the page structure. So here we can put the title, which is going to be our first web page, like that. So save. Then inside the body, this is where the content live, like that. So whatever you want to showcase to the user is going to be inside the body. And what are you going to be using to generate the element? You'll be using tag. And what are the tags do you need? We are going to get here soon, that the one you use to generate text, the one you use to generate lists, and so forth like that. We start talking about them one by one. But first, you must always have this minimal structure, and you update the title, then inside the body you start putting the content you want to show to the user. The same thing too, for our sign up, we can just enter there, generate the structure, then change the title. So we are going to name this one as a sign up page for our site, like that, or anything you want. Whatever text you put there, that's what the browser will take as a title for that single page. So like that, you can, the name, this one is not like you have to, it's not related to the deployment, it's related to the page itself. The browser will load, and once it's done loading, everything will come outside. So it's being used by the browser, not by the user. So, and yeah, it can be used by the user too by reading the stuff, but most of the time they don't care about the title at the top, but the browser care about it because that's what it's going to use to save when you press Ctrl S or when you bookmark the page and so forth like that. So it's always good that you use something that is descriptive or related to the page you are working on there, like that. So, and inside the body, this is where you put the contents, like that. And what are the contents that you want to show? It all depends on the page you are working on. And as you can see this side now, these are their contents for this page. So if you go to another place, for example, maybe like login now, you see a separate content there. So everything here is inside the body. If I inspect this one, because you can actually see the code for any site by just clicking on that inspect. So it's going to bring out this browser stuff, but we'll talk more about them later on. As you can see, you have the, and their own, they are not using HTML5, they are still stuck on HTML4. So they are not progressing. I don't know. They just left everything the way it has been right from day one. They're like that. But you see that the head is here. Inside the head, you have the, so whatever you have inside the title, that's what it will show at the top, like that. For all this meta stuff, I'll be talking about them when we need it. We don't need them right now. And inside the body, that's where you now have the content you want to show to the user. But what is all this H1? What is all this TR? What is all this TB and whatever stuff? That's what we want to talk about there, because you need to know when to use them, or when you need, anytime you need a particular content, this is the tag you need to use to generate it. But before we get to that, we need to see the result of what we just did right now on the page. So in order for us to see the result on the page, we can use one extension in VS Code, and that extension is known as a Live Server, which is something that is not there by default. You have to install it before you can have access to that before you can have access to that feature, which is, as you can see down here, there is this thing known as Go Live. Or you can right click on the file like this, and you see open with Live Server. And the advantage of this live server is that you can see your result instantly when you make changes from your code, because the browser changes is not going to, like, whatever you have in your code is not going to reflect there until you reload the page. But when you are working on, when you are developing there is a lot of changes you are going to make rapidly. So you don't want to be coming here to reload the page yourself. So we want to be able to do it from VS Code directly. Anytime I save the code here, I want the browser to just reload for me automatically. Because if you don't use live server, if you load the HTML directly in the HTML on the browser there, anytime you make changes here, you have to come here yourself to reload. And now imagine you are changing something like you're thinking like first line of code rapidly in VS Code, and you want to save all these changes at once. Anytime you save, you want this thing to show. You can't do it by just opening this HTML directly. And what do I mean by that? Let me go to where we have the HTML. This is what I mean by that. So you can just click on it like this. It will still work, but the disadvantage of this one is that anytime you make changes in your code, you have to come here yourself to reload the page. So for example, here now, let me just say this. So instead of using the THIS, I want to use this one. So like that. Now save the code. As you can see, it's still showing that old one. But let's go to the one that we load with live server. There, can you see? That one has changed. I don't need to go there to reload myself. It will, once you see that we save from here, it will reload the page for us. But the one that we load directly without live server, you have to be the one that will click on this thing. That's when it will now see the update. Now imagine the time you are going to be using to move from here to here to click on reload when you are changing something fast. So it will get boring, like it will get to a point to be so boring there, like why do I need to be doing this thing every time like that? So that's why we need live server. Once we make the changes from here, so let me just remove this in this, then save it to, and you see that thing, what it's just doing is reloading the page, because you have to reload the page before you can see the changes. So, and live server is connecting our VS Code to the browser. As you can see that it has this 127 whatever stuff. It's not like that one that is loading it directly from the file. So this one is not loading it directly from the file. It's creating like a dummy server. And that dummy server is waiting for you to save your code here. Once you save it, to see it, and it will reload the page automatically for you, so that you can see that new changes. So it will be easier. So what you just do is that you have your code one side and you have your browser on the other side, so that you can see the preview of what is going on the page. So you need live server, and as you can see here, it shows that the port, so for you to know that it's running, you're going to see that there is port 5500 like that, or 5500. So if you don't want it again, you just click on it and it's going to close. So if it's saying go live, it means it's not running at that moment. So if you go back to the page now, it will not work again if you reload, because it's not running again. It will just, so that server has been destroyed, so it will not see it again. But this one will still be working because you are loading it directly from the file, so it's not doing anything. You always see it, except if that file is no more there at that place. That's the only time this one too will not work. But for the live server to work, you need to have the extension installed first by going to this extension and type live server. Is a popular extension, as you can see here. This is it at the top. So once you install, you just click on install like that, and once you install, it will show this gear icon, and from there, once you create any HTML file, you are going to see it down here automatically there. Once you see any HTML file, it will show down here, and it's now left for you to just click on it to go live. So click on it, it will start, and once it load, it will open it for you in the browser automatically there like that, and you can start working and put whatever you want to show on the screen. And what do we want to show on the screen? We want to be able to display different type of text on our page. For example, here now, look at this site. There are different type of text here. So we have something known as heading text, but the heading text come in different sizes. So if you look at it, this one is like kind of bigger than the one that we have here. So this one now, these are what we call heading text, but they are of different levels. So we are going to be generating them using a tag, and you mention the level of the heading that you want. Apart from that, we have some of these text known as paragraph. So this is another heading, but if you look at this one, is not that big as this one or this one same. Same thing here too. You look at this one, it's not the same thing as it, but it's still heading like that. So how do you create heading text? How do you create paragraph? So those are the two major texts that you only see on every site. There is no site you want to go to that you are not going to see text at all. You always see them there. So how do you create it again too? You're always going to see heading text. But the heading text can come in different variants. This one is bigger than this one. But both of them are heading text. The difference is just the level of the heading that you have there. So how do we generate them? How do we generate them? So to generate the heading text, we have the H1 to H6. H1 to H6. So H1 is the heading level 1. H heading, then 1, which represent the level. So this is heading text like that, and save. And as you can see, it's bold and it's really big in size. Again, we have H2, which now the heading level 2. It's like that one too. The difference is just the size that is there. So heading text like this, as you can see, looks the same, but the difference is just the size. So H1 is bigger than H2, H2 is bigger than H3, and so forth like that, all the way to H6. So those are the 6 levels of heading that we have, and you can use any one of them anytime you need to create a hierarchy in your heading. You are going to have the major heading, then you are going to have sub headings and so forth like that. So you call each one of them anytime you need heading, but depending on the level, you use the one that you want there. So for this side now, this one should always be H1 when you are using, because it's a major heading on that page. So if you inspect it and we check the code, if they're using correct stuff, you see that they are using heading text there. As you can see, what is there? H1, because it's the major heading on that page. But if you check the other one, they are going to be less than that. Let me use this live. As you can see here, let me check this one. They are still using H1 too, but they make it look lesser than this using CSS, because as you can see, this is CSS going on here. But we're not going to be talking about that for now. When we get to the CSS, that's where we'll get to that part. So any CSS stuff, I won't be talking about them because we're going to focus on it later on after the HTML part. So we too, we can generate this heading by just going into our page. So now I want to deal with this sign up page there. So let me just remove this, but I'm going to be replacing it with some content later on. So let me put H1, then put the content inside it. Don't forget, we have tag, which is what you use to generate elements. And as you can see, this tag now, it has opening and closing. So when you are dealing with any tag that have open and close, you have to put the content in between that tag. So you can see that the secret, whatever stuff, is in between the opening and the closing tag, not outside of it. So this is outside, which is after. Again, this is before. So whatever you put outside them, they are not part of the content. So when this thing gets to the screen, you see that the thing will only change all this one. Nothing will happen to these two. So you always put your content in between the opening and the closing of that tag there like that. So, but it's not every time that you have open and closing, which I'm going to get to. Is here too, as you can see this one. See that this one is different. The way this one is, so this is what we call self-closing tag, but we don't need it right now. We'll get to it later on. So going back to the page, how do we see our sign up? Don't forget, anytime you go to any site and you don't mention what page you want, for example, if I just remove this index, you see that it's still working because it's going to pick the content that is inside the index automatically when you don't mention the page. But you know the page that we want to go to, and the page you want to go to is based on the name of the file that you have here. So since we name it signup.html, means after that slash, we just need to use signup then .html. And once you press enter, as you can see, we are going to see our content. Can you see that it's not doing anything with this before and after? So any tag you are working with and it's having open and closing, you have to put the content in between the tag, not outside of it. If it is outside, then it will not do anything with it because it will really focus on what is inside that particular tag. And you can use it to anywhere you need heading. But after this one, what else do we need? What I need is a normal paragraph, because when you want to type a text that is looking like all those before and after, we don't just type them anyhow too like that. You have to put them in a tag. And the tag we use for them is known as paragraph tag. And for that, we have the P tag. You can see all these tags, they are coming from what they are doing. Most of them, the name or the name of the tag are just coming from the same name, the way you are going to pronounce the element. If it is button, it's still the same thing as button for the tag. That's why you can just use them interchangeably there. But there, most most of them follow that pattern, but not all of them that use all the name from. But almost all, let us say 80% of them, the name is always correlating with what they are doing. So P coming from paragraph, and inside this P you can put whatever content you want to put here as paragraph. So going back to this side, let's just copy this. No, this one is still heading. There's one, yeah. So this one here. So we want to have something like this, and inside the P, I will just paste the content like this. So save. Go back to the page again. As you can see, we have the paragraph, and you can see there is a space going on around all the content. So all these tags, they are doing some CSS behind the scene that we don't care about right now. But when we get to the CSS part, we're going to remove what is doing, like the HTML is doing, and apply our own spacing, because this spacing might not be what we need. It might be something less than this or more than this. So we don't want it to do anything for us. We're going to be the one that will handle it. But for now, I don't care about any styling stuff. So when you need a text that is just normal text, like a paragraph, you're going to use the P tag to represent the text. So we have H1 all the way to H6, and we have paragraph that you can use to generate text or normal text. So I don't want this sign up. I want to go back to my index back like that. So under the index, let me use the same P here. So generate the P tag. And as you can see, I'm just calling the letter from the tag, then pressing enter. That's VS Code at work. So once you type any tag and it knows about it, it will bring a suggestion for you. If it matches the one, because it will always start from the top. So if whatever you are typing, so like this now, space, as you can see, there are different tags. But the one I actually need is the P. So I'm pressing enter. But if it's not the P that I need, if it is the other one, then you can just go to that one you need, press enter. As you can see, it will complete the tag for you. But P is the common one, and that's the one at the top. So I'm pressing enter, then pasting the content that I want inside it. So save, and we're going to have the content. But I'm not going to be going online to get content just like the way I'm going to other sites. VS Code come with dummy extension. I come with this extension known as Lorem, which is what you can use to generate dummy text. So it's going to generate some dummy text for you anytime you need it. Because when you are designing, when you're working on a particular site, you might not have the actual text you want to use at that moment, but you need something as a placeholder to represent what you are going to be using later on. Not that you have to wait for the original content to come before you build the stuff. You can build it down with dummy text. Then when the original content is not there, then you just replace them with those content. So VS Code 2 have this dummy stuff that we can use. So type Lorem. By default, when you type Lorem, it will generate 25 dummy words. So if I just press enter like this, as you can see, it will generate 25 Lorem ipsum, whatever, dollars, nonsense. Just one random text like that. So like Latin, but it's just dummy words to just act as a placeholder. So it will generate 25 by default, but if you need any specific number of words, you can just put it in front of it. So this one means I want to generate 5. So if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's the only one it will generate for you, which is going to be the title. And from here, I can create another paragraph. So this Lorem 45. So this one now, it will generate 45 words. You count them, it's going to be 45. So I don't need to start looking for content. I can just quickly use this Lorem for the text. Use H2, yeah, so yeah, now I'm using, that's one. Depending on what the type of the content you want to display, you call the tag that is mine. Since I want to display heading here, that's why I use H2. Then after it, I want to show paragraph. That's the reason why I use P here. So you, based on the content you want to work with, or based on the design. So when you see the design, the design here, what are they using here? This is the element I want to show. As you can see here now, you can see that this one now, you know that you have to use heading text. Why this one, you use paragraph, and all this one you use image.
But how do you generate image? We're going to get there. How do you generate buttons or link? We're going to get there. How do you generate image? We're going to get there because HTML you are going to use to generate all these things. So that's how it is. Once you see the content, you map it to the tag that will give us something like that. But not every time that what you want to generate will actually match. Like all these box too, you are going to see how to generate. You know, they are not text. They are something like a container. So you are going to see what you can use to create container later on. But you can see here, this is heading and this is a paragraph like that. So if they are using correct stuff here, you see that they are going to be using all the H here, but the which one H, I don't know until I will check like that. And I can see they're not even using H, they're using this div to create the stuff, and they use CSS to make everything. So, but this div is what we're going to be using to create container later on. But for now, we don't know about it. When we want to go to CSS, that's what we'll be talking about, that one. But we'll generate the site for them that is using using wrong tag to generate now. Some people will just build something nonsense. All right, so let's continue like that. So what else do we want to do? We want to be able to format part of our text. So not just generating the text, we want to be able to format part of it. And we have some basic formats that you can do from HTML. So let me put H1 here as the title. So formatting in HTML, well, let me call it basic. So as you can see now, I'm having heading and I'm using H1 because I want it to be a big heading text. That's why I'm using H1. If you like, you can use any other heading text. CSS, you can use it to style them anyhow you want later on. But when you have heading, you should always use H1 to X6 depending on the level. When you have paragraph, you should always use P to represent it. And what did I want to do here? We want to talk about bold text. So how do you bold text? So when you want to bold a text or when you want to bold part of a text, we have a tag that you can use for that. What is bold? If you look at this heading text compared to the paragraph, you see that all the text here, they are kind of thicker than what we have here. So that's what we call bold. So, and how do you do it too with any of your text? Because there's sometimes you want to add emphasis to part of your text, like this build chatbot now. I want to focus, like, you know, as you are reading, when you change the way one of the text looks like, you know, the eye is going to go there compared to the one that everything is just the same. So I want to put attention on this text. So we can bold the text, or we can underline the text, or we can make the text to be in italics. So italics text. So we can underline the text like that. These are just the basic one. There's still some other one that you can do, but these are the basic one there like that. That I know that we're going to be, even this one we won't be using much like that. These two, we're going to be using it later on like that. No, 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 that's VS Code stuff. I'll be talking about that one later on, which is just to hold like keys from here and it's going to generate it because I don't want to type the stuff again. It's just the VS Code shortcut, which is this Shift Alt, then down or up. It will duplicate the line up or down depending on which side that you press the stuff to. They like that. So for here, we have this paragraph and I want to paste the text that I used before. So let me open this, my clipboard that I have. Yeah, so let me paste this content again. So this is what we have. But what do we want to do with this text? We want to bold this build chat box. So we can use these two tags to bold a text. So we have the B tag and we have the strong tag. So the two of them, you can use it to bold a text. So they have open and closing. So which means we need to build, we need to put this stuff inside the tag. So instead of us just typing it directly like this, we can use the B tag and the content will be, don't forget, open and closing, the content have to be inside. So save now, you see that it will now turn only those two texts to a bold text. So whatever you put inside a B tag, it will make it to look like this. Let me expand this in very well. You can see this is the text, this is paragraph by default, but inside the paragraph, we are turning these two to a bold text so that it puts more emphasis on that text. Anybody that wants to read this line will always, 99% of the time, they will always see these two because they are kind of prominent there, and it's showing and it's bold. So people will only, the eye will only go there first before reading the other content. Again, to the 3 years of experience, we want to bold so that they know that we have this so number of years of experience. But instead of us using B, we can use the other one, which is strong. So it's a tag too that you can use to make your text to be bold. But they are useless when you are using them with H1 to H6 because already they are bold. So using them, they will work, but you will not see any difference because H1 to H6 are doing the work of this strong and B behind the scene automatically. You don't need to use them when you're dealing with H1 to H6. But when you're dealing with paragraph or any other one that you need a bold text there, then you can use the B, or later on, say, most of the time, we'll be doing it from CSS. Because we don't know about CSS right now, that's why we are doing some of these things from HTML. What they are doing behind the scene is just to apply some CSS. But once you know about that CSS, you see that most of them, you'll be doing it directly from CSS. You won't be using all this B or strong, but sometimes if you need it, you can use them too. It will still work. So just like the way we have it at the top there, we want to have the same thing, but instead of us bolding the text, we want it to be italics here. So for this one, we have two tags for it too. We have the I and we have the EM tag. So I for italic, as you can, it's coming from the name, but HTML5 is introducing this EM, which is emphasis. So that's where the EM is coming from. So instead of us using B, we can use I. But something happened here now. I change this one. See that the other one changed. It will not happen like that from your own end. It's because I've installed one extension that looks at my tag that I'm changing. Once I change one of them, it will change the other one. But if you try it from your own side, if you change the first one, you have to go and change the second one. So, and that's the reason why you need this. You'll be needing this extension later on, known as this auto rename tag. So the name of the extension is auto rename. So once you change one of the tag, if you change the closing, it will rename the opening. If you change the opening, it will change the closing for you. Not that you have to start doing the two yourself. See that it makes work easier for me. Not that I have to start doing a lot of things myself. Some unnecessary stuff that I don't need to be doing, the editor is going to undo it for me. Again, too, you look at it, as I'm saving all this my file, it's arranging all these texts automatically. Let me do it for you again so that you see what I'm talking about. So this P, the text that I actually copy from online. So let me paste the text that I copy from online. You see the way it looks like. It's not looking like the way it's supposed to be. So this is it here. Can you see the way everything is? It just go one line. But after I save the code, can you see it formats the stuff? This is an extension too. So they are not there by default, but you can add them to simply, like, I don't need to start going or like start arranging the stuff myself. No, that extension will look at the code and format it and make sure that everything is arranged properly the way it's supposed to be. The same, like, if you look at it now, if I just press unnecessary enter, it knows that all these things, they are not needed. Because on the page, all this spacing, they are not going to show anything. So if I save it back here now, as you can see, it will close it back. But if you try it there, it will not close and you still not see the space on the screen. Because if you have multiple space like this, what the browser will see is just a single space. So that's why you need tag to do all these things. You can't just press enter to move text to next line. No, there's a tag you are going to use to do that. And that's another formatting, which is what we call BR here, which is break line. But this one now, as you can see, is a self-closing tag. So how do you know a self-closing tag? They always end with this slash after, not before. No, there is one which is before. This is closing tag. But this one, this is self-closing. The self is having the slash at the end, but for the closing is having it before the tag. And how does all this one work? Any self-closing stuff, they normally work with the content beside them, or if they are working alone, you have to use some other stuff to talk to them, which is known as attributes. When I get there, I will explain what is that. But for now, this is what we have. And what is this BR going to do now? What it's going to do is that wherever content that follows it, they will always go to next line. As you can see that the editor has already formatted the stuff to move this text to next line. And that's the way too is going to show on the screen by the time you get to the browser there like that. So after the multiple, where are you, where are you, where are you, where are you? Where is the multiple? Yeah, so here we are supposed to have the stuff on the next line. Why are you not saving my code? So going back there again, can you see now the chat box is now down, and the more BR you use, the more line you are going to get. So this thing is just like you are pressing enter 3 times, like you just press enter 3 times. So if you go back to the page, you see that we are going to have those lines here. So you don't use enter to create a space in between text. This one is just useless. All this saying, by the time you get to the browser, it will convert them to just a single space, or like you just press a normal space on your keyboard. That's how, and then that's the reason why the extension is doing the formatting, because don't expect that because you do it like that, it will not come out on the screen. So just like what I mentioned with this, we can use the I and we can use the EM like that. So EM like this. So I or EM, we make our text to be in italics. As you can see, instead of bolding it, the text is now in italics. The same thing here too, instead of the bold that we have here. And for the underline, that one is just a single tag. You can guess this one too, it's just U tag. So most of this thing is just coming from the name of what whatever they are doing. So underline the U, so like that. So any text that I want to underline here, we just need to put it under the stuff like that. So just because I need to put it inside the tag, so I cut it out, then paste. But normally if you are typing and you've not gotten there, just type the tag and it will move inside, then you type whatever you want. Because anytime you type tag that is open and closing, once, as you can see, it will enter it automatically. So you just let for you to start typing. But because the text is here already, I need to remove it first so that I can put it inside the tag. But if it is tag that you type first, then you just enter and continue with the content like that. And going back to the page, as you can see, it's going to underline the text. And you can combine them together, just like the way we are putting U inside the P. So we can put other one too inside each other there like that. So if I want, I can bold, and at the same time, it's still going to be underlined. So here is underlined only, but here I can put the B too inside it. So inside the U, we're having P, but the content will be inside the inner tag. No, just like the way we have it inside the P, we are now having U there, and the content is not in U. That's the same thing we are doing here. So the B tag is inside U. Yes, so what we are doing here is that we want to bold, then once we are done with the bold, we want to underline that same text that is bold. So saving it and going back to the page, you say that it will bold it, and at the same time it will underline it. So you apply, so you can, that's what I said yesterday, that you are going to be bringing different tags together to form your custom element. So they gave you different tag, but there's some time what you want to do, there's no tag for that. So what do? You combine different tags together to achieve your goal. And that's why you see that there's a lot of tags when you go to some site. For example, here now, clicking on this thing, you are going to see that inside this box alone, there's a lot of tags that they put together to achieve that goals. As you can see here, can you see they are using the paragraph that I talked about? So which is this? Where is it? Where is that one coming from? It's still down. Yeah, so as you can see, that's a paragraph, but this paragraph is inside this div. But this div too, as you can see, is having P and it's having this other P. So this one is grouping the two together. And again, to look at another div, is one that is now grouping all these things together. So what you do is you put one tag inside another one to achieve your goal. But first, you need to know what each one of the tags are doing before you can be able to combine them together. So if you expand this one, now you see that
It's just a bunch of other tags that is there like that. Again, as you can see, you just be seeing one open, and you keep going inside and you keep seeing different tags. So that's the same thing we are doing here. So inside, we put the text inside B, the B2 is inside U, and U is inside the P. And P2 is inside the body. They are always like that. It's like a tree. They are moving from one branch to another one like that. So that's how everything used to be on the page. So we have this formatting text that you can use. We have the heading text, and at the same time, you can generate, let me talk about this before we call it a day. You can generate lists in HTML, because that's another important stuff, or that's another basic tag you need to know about. Because when you need to list something like items out, you need a list. When you need to itemize something out, you need a list. For example, now this is like a list here. You have the list under the company, you have the list under the features, you have the one for the legal, you have the one for the order. But all of them too, they are like a list on their own too, which is like a nested item. Or let's look at this simple one for our own case before the CSS one there. As you can see, this is a list of items here. But when you're talking about the list here, we have two types of major lists in HTML. We have the ordered list and we have the unordered list. So when you're talking about lists, we have ordered lists. So let me have H1 lists in HTML like that. So H2, we have the ordered list, and we have the H2 unordered list. So what's the difference between them? The difference is just the styling of the list that is using. So that's just the difference. So when you're talking about unordered, this is what we call unordered here. It did not specify like order. Okay, this is 1, 2, 3. It did not really specify like this is the first one you have to do or the second one. But when you're talking about the one that have 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, Roman figure, those are the one we call ordered list. And how do you generate them in HTML? So to generate the list, we have OL. As you can see the name, OL. So ordered list. So which means this one now is going to be UL. And if you go back to that site, you see that they are using it just that they've customized the stuff. They're actually using it here, but it has been customized because I can see one UL they are using it. Can you see it here? Down here. Where is it? I saw it now. Let me move out a little bit. I saw it. Can you see here? So UL. So it's used when you need to have a list. Can you see that this is a list? 1, 2, 3. So anyway, you need to have a list. You always see that what you use here is this tag. But it's not the one that will give you this icon. No. It doesn't give you the icon, but you can now customize it later on with your image and the CSS there. But for now, we just want to deal with the basic one, something like this, not like the one. But behind the scene, what you'll be using there is just this OL or this UL, depending on the type of the list that you want there like that. And if you look at it inside the list, we have items. This is what we call items here. So this is the first item. So this is going to be the first item. This is the second item, and so forth like that. So to generate the item inside your list, you're going to be using LI, which is for list items. So inside the ordered or inside the unordered, the whatever content you want to showcase, you have to use LI to bring each one of them out. And this is one that is going to do some magic. It's just what they are doing is just applying some CSS behind the scene that you too you can undo later on when we get to the CSS part. So for here now, what are we listing out? We just want to list out the languages that we use. So we have the hypertext markup language. That's the full meaning of HTML. So that's where they are bringing the stuff from like that. So again, too, we have CSS, which is a cascade style. So that's the full meaning of CSS sheets. So CSS. So then the last one, JS, which is JavaScript, that one. So this is Java, then the script. So JS like that. So we have the list, but this one is ordered list there like that. So this one is ordered list. So going back to the page, scroll down, and as you can see, we have the list. We are not the one that mentioned this 1, 2, 3, whatever stuff. That OL and LI will do all this magic behind the scene. The way you arrange the stuff, that's the same way it's going to number them. So if you move JavaScript up, it means JavaScript will now be the first item on the list. So it will rearrange the stuff automatically there like that. And we can use the same thing that we use here, because the same LI you are going to be using inside OL is what you'll be using inside UL. The difference is just the style of the list that is using. So on ordered doesn't specify order, it uses all these bullets. So and we have different bullets that you can use. But for now, we just stick with this one. Again, too, you can actually change this one from 1, 2, 3 to A, B, C, and so forth like that. So and that's what I want to use now to explain what is attributes. So we talk about tag. So tag will generate element for you on the screen. But some of these tags, they can give you different element or different behavior on that element based on the extra information that you supply to them. If you don't supply information to them, they know what to do by default. But that doesn't mean they cannot do other tags. They can help you to generate something else, or they can help you to change the design of that element that you are generating on the screen. But how do you give them that extra information that they should do something for you? That's where the attribute comes in, and it's already on the page. What I'm talking about is already on the page. So look at this HTML here. This is what we call attributes here. They are always the other stuff that follow the opening tag. It's always inside opening tag or self-closing tag, not inside the closing one. So for the closing, you don't put tag there. Where you put it, you don't put the attribute there. So when you put the attribute is after the opening tag, it's still inside, but after that tag that you're talking about, or when you're dealing with self-closing tag. So here now, all these stuff, they are referred to as attributes. So this is attributes. Even this one at the top too is attributes. But you know that this one is not like this one. So I will talk about each one of them. This is another attribute. This is another attribute. This is another one, because you can have multiple attributes on a particular element. And you're going to see it when we're talking about form in the next class there, because that side, you're going to use a lot of attributes for you to talk to the element to give you different thing on. It's still the same element, but it can generate, it's still the same tag, but it can generate different UI, which is the user interface for you based on the tag that you are, or based on the attributes that you are passing to it. So when you're talking about attributes, it has two parts. The first part is referred to as the name of the attribute. So this is the name of the attribute. So this one is referred to as the name, and this one is referred to as the value that you are passing to the attribute. So you want this thing to do something for you, but it can receive different value. Just our list now. We can talk to it to not to use this 1, 2, 3, to use ABC. So the value you are supplying to it to determine what to display, this is how you are going to be passing it. But how are you going to talk to it that this is what you want to change? That's the attribute that you want to modify on it. And each one of the elements come with their attributes that you can use there. For this one now, for this our OL like that, we can give it this attribute type. So this is the name of the attribute. But which type do you want to use? That's now the value. So this is the attribute you talk to. Okay, I want to change something. What are you changing? That's the name of the attribute. But what is the particular changes you need there? That's now the value. As you can see, it comes with different value, which is what is using this. This one is what is using by default, which means it's using the numeral number, which is 1, 2, 3, whatever stuff. But yeah, I can change it to another one. So once we save now, you see that it will now change. It's still the same tag, but based on the extra information that we supplied into it, it's now behaving in another way. And a lot of tags have attributes that you can apply on them to change their behavior. And that's what we're going to be using too later on, to change the style of your element, because you need to give it that extra information that we don't want to use this style.
that you're using by default, we want to use another thing entirely, like that. Because it's still the same element that you are going to be seeing on different sites. The difference is just the attribute and the styling that you apply on them that will make them to be different from each other there, like that. So here I can just go back again. Instead of using this, we can use I, which not one. Oh, this is I, which means Roman figure, like that. And as you can see, but you can't do it with this one. You know, this one is using bullet, and so you have to do it from CSS if you want to change it. And we have an attribute for that to apply CSS, and the attribute is known as the style. And whatever value you are giving here is what you want to change on that element. For example, now I want to change color to be red, not what is there currently. But what is this? When we get to the CSS, you understand it better. And you can see now it has changed from the color black that is here into color red. So you talk to all these elements through attributes to change the way they are, you know, whatever they used to show for you by default, to change the stuff. You can use attributes to change the stuff. So that's how it works. And I don't know, have you been added to the group? There's a group.